After World War II, Germany was completely decimated. The country had faced the full force of the American, Soviet, British, and Allied armies, and most of its cities were either heavily damaged or completely destroyed. Despite this, Germany today is the economic powerhouse of Europe, with the European Union's largest GDP. Germany is also a global hub of engineering, technology, and investment. So how did the Allies rebuild Germany from the ruins of the fallen Nazi Reich to what it is today? Well, first off, Germany's post-war story is very complicated. The country was split into American-dominated West Germany and Soviet-controlled East. The two countries took vastly different paths to post-war development, and even after unification in 1991, these two parts of Germany remain very different. The Soviet effort was less successful. They were more heavy-handed, focusing on reparations for the atrocities committed against Russia and Eastern Europe by the Nazis. In comparison to West Germany, or just in general, East Germany was more totalitarian, less economically developed, and more prone to civil conflict. The contrast is stark. After all, the Soviets had to build the Berlin Wall in order to keep people from fleeing to West Germany. So we're going to focus on the more successful and democratic West German story. For Germany's success today, we have to give due credit to the Marshall Plan. George Marshall was Chief of Staff of the United States Army during World War II and served as Secretary of State for the U.S. immediately after. He devised a plan to rebuild the post-war world under American influence in order to strengthen weakened allies. In total, the United States gave away $120 billion, adjusted for inflation, to its allies and the defeated Axis powers in order to fund rebuilding after the war. Contrary to what most Allied powers wished, Marshall put a great deal of this funding into rebuilding the defeated Axis powers, including Germany. Most Allied powers, who had suffered immensely under German occupation, wanted to reduce the German economy and dismantle its military. However, Marshall believed that it would be in the best interest of maintaining peace with the defeated Axis if they were to be rebuilt as a gesture of good faith, which would also help curb communist influence. The plan was a major success. German industry, technological innovation, and the economy boomed. American financing rebuilt German infrastructure and allowed Germany to rebuild its economy. By the 1950s, a mere decade after the end of the most devastating conflict in human history, Germany was on its way to founding the European Economic Community and eventually the European Union. West Germany was also rapidly democratized, with multi-party elections that were relatively free of outside influence, a stark contrast to the Nazi regime and the situation in the Communist East. This peace-building plan, the idea that a military victor should rebuild and democratize its defeated enemy, worked wonders for the post-World War II world. Japan, Italy, and Germany, all of which were the defeated fascist powers, and had been mostly destroyed in World War II, were fully democratized by this plan. Today, all three countries hold the title of being one of the world's top 10 economies. So, can the Marshall Plan be used to aid in peace-building efforts in today's world? Well, not so much. The political climate is unrepeatable, or at least we hope it is. The threat of the Cold War and the total devastation of World War II made drastic change possible in places like Germany. This may not be repeatable, but part of George Marshall's vision is, it is better for peace and global stability to rebuild and reconcile with your adversaries, rather than destroy them. The most successful part of George Marshall's plan was the way in which he treated the defeated Axis powers. While the Soviets looked to reprimand East Germany, Marshall and the United States decided to foster its rebuilding and reconcile Germany with its neighbors. This legacy remains in Germany today, and it is an example as to how to go about peace building in future disputes.